The crisis at our southern border spiraling out of control and causing chaos on all of our city streets. 7 migrants were arrested after they attacked a New York Police Department officers, 2 of them in Times Square. But the migrants didn't seem too concerned with their arrest. 2 of the suspects were seen flashing their middle fingers at the cameras as they exited their arraignments. And why should they be concerned? They were all released without bail in New York's new criminal paradise. With me now is former FBI Assistant Director Chris Swecker and National Border Patrol Council President Brandon Judd. Great to see you, gentlemen. You're perfect people to opine on all that's going on here. Chris, first of all, on the criminals that are coming into the United States. Now, there's a lot of talk about, and we're going to get into it more tomorrow night also, about whether or not a lot of prisons in Venezuela are just being emptied and Maduro and others are sending them here. Clearly, these are gangs now that are coming into the United States. They are gangs that probably were organized before they even came here and are operating as a part of organized crime that's going on in the United States. Now, you also have experience with terrorists that come into the United States. You busted the only Hezbollah cell that was busted here in the U.S. In 2001. It was overshadowed by the events of 9/11, but it was an extraordinary event, and they came in through the southern border. I'm wondering how many more terrorist cells might have come in through the open border in the past 3 years.
Well, by throwing open the southern borders, we have recklessly opened this country to the greatest risk in our lifetime. I mean, you mentioned Venezuela emptying their jails. Well, that happened in 1980 when Fidel Castro emptied his jails in the Mariel boat lift in Miami, and this country had to live with the aftermath of that for decades. The cocaine cowboys, if you will. But what we're seeing now is we've created an environment. There's so much volume with the encounters, the number of encounters, the number of gotaways, the number who were on the terrorist watch list who were actually detained. We have created a situation where terrorists can slip across at will, intelligence agents can slip across at will, and we've empowered the drug cartels. They're more powerful now than they've ever been because they're not just smuggling drugs. They're extorting migrants as they cross. They're exacting a tax. And they've ventured into a whole new line of business, which has increased their power and influence. So nothing good is coming out of this open border.
Yeah, and you've got a very significant letter that you sent to the politicians, letting them know how dangerous this all is. We're going to get to that in a second. But Brandon, what's extraordinary is even though we now have a situation where all of our city streets, it's not just New York, it's happening in Chicago, it's happening in Boston, you can see evidence of real criminal behavior by these, and criminal behavior that precedes their trips into the United States. They obviously have been organized and trained. The pickpocketing is becoming endemic all over the United States right now, and yet the politicians still have blinds on. I want to play a soundbite from the Massachusetts governor claiming that there are no illegal immigrants in the United States. Roll tape.
The fact of the matter is, folks have been led into this country lawfully and have found their way to Massachusetts and to other states, and we have certain legal obligations here.
Now, she was talking specifically about families that come over, but she painted with a broad swath there. What do you make of her statement?
Yeah, it's irresponsible lies like this that it invites more people to cross our borders illegally. When you know that you're going to have a governor or a mayor that's going to say things like this, that's going to be the rhetoric, they're going to continue to come because they know that they're going to be protected. We need people to actually step up and say what they're doing is wrong. And if we stop this at the border, if we stopped it tomorrow, we could save American lives. We wouldn't have to be sheltering all of these people. We wouldn't have to be incurring all of these costs. But then I really want to go back to the point that you made, that these people are already organized when they come in. We listen to the calls. We monitor the calls when they're in our custody. And we hear regularly that they are speaking with gang members and getting ready for their release and going into those gangs, and there's still nothing that we can do about it because this administration doesn't allow us. It's insane to think that we have high-level politicians that continue to use rhetoric, that continues to invite people to cross our borders illegally, and we do not recognize the harm that they're going to do when they get here.
Well, the feds are not doing anything about it, Chris, but of course, Texas government is trying to do something on its own. The president of the United States said no fair. It's our responsibility, but they're not doing their responsibility. There is a constitutional provision that allows states to take over border security if there's an invasion. Would you call what we are seeing at the border an invasion?
No doubt about it. In the letter that I and my other former FBI executive colleagues authored, we said that. We said this is an invasion of military-age men. Over 65% of these migrants are military-age men. Now, you can't tell me that there aren't intelligence operatives, terrorists, and criminals mixed in with that. And again, it's creating an unacceptable level of risk for this country. We've seen the crime spikes that have taken place. We just haven't. You don't see the counterintelligence activity that's taking place. You don't see the terrorists slipping across the border. Unfortunately, we're going to have a catastrophic event. I heard that right here.
Brandon, very quickly, what happens if, in fact, Texas continues to protect its border, as Chris says it has a constitutional right to do, and you guys who are working for the federal government are told to do the opposite? Is there going to be a confrontation?
There's not. As long as what we're doing is given a lawful order. Texas National Guard understands that we have to follow our orders. We understand that they have to follow their orders, and we support each other. So I completely support everything that Governor Abbott's doing.
All right, gentlemen, we have to leave it at that. Thank you so much for your service, both of your services. Chris and Brandon, appreciate it.